In a landscape inundated with health advice and wellness ideologies, it becomes imperative to discern between disinformation and genuine insights. Deception can manifest in two primary forms, through overt falsehoods or through the strategic withholding of critical information. While the merits of the Mediterranean diet and the health benefits of olive oil are widely acknowledged, it is essential to critically examine such claims. Dr. Ramon Andrade de Mello brings attention to potential adverse effects associated with olive oil consumption. 1. Causes acne. 2. Can cause allergies. 3. Causes skin rashes. 4. Not safe on a baby's skin. 5. Is not suitable for dry skin. 6. Can cause blackheads. 7. Saturated fat-related diseases. 8. Trans fat-related diseases. 9. Lowers blood sugar. 10. Lowers blood pressure. 11. Causes inflammation. 12. Gallbladder stones and blockage. 13. Can cause diarrhea. 14. High on calories. Now, let us consider the perspective of Dr. Jeff Novick.
So what about the Mediterranean diet? We're going to finish up with this, because after all, aren't they healthy? Don't you hear that they live very long and they get low rates of cardiovascular disease and cancer? There were studies that came out in 1999, very famous studies. They said that a Mediterranean diet is better than a low-fat diet. So if you hear this news that a Mediterranean diet is better than a low-fat diet, and you want to go on the Mediterranean diet, what diet do you go on? Do you go on the Greek diet or the French diet? The Northern Egypt diet or the Israeli diet? Or do you go on the Italian diet? The North or Southern Italian? Do they all eat the same? Or are there dramatic differences? Well, it turned out that they studied 16 regions, including several Mediterranean countries. And where'd they find these long-lived people? On the Isle of Crete. Right, and it turned out they had the lowest all-cause mortality after 20 years, and diet was a contributing factor. Now, they also studied the Italian regions, and they had twice the death rate of heart disease. So if you're going to go on a Mediterranean diet, you can't just go on any diet. You don't want to go on that diet, right? You've got to know which diet you're going on. You've got to go on that diet. And the study was a very famous study called the 7 Country Studies by Ansel Keys. First started coming out the info in the 60s, and the data was collected in the 50s. Does anybody know what was going on the Isle of Crete in the 50s? Because if you want to follow the diet, you got to know what they were doing back then. Does anybody know? Post-war recovery had been German occupation. Right, so guess what was going on the island? Poverty and starvation. Yeah, guess where they got all their food? The garden, from the earth. They also did a little bit of fishing. Want to play charades later? And guess how they got around that island and climbed all those mountains? About 9 miles a day, up and down mountains. Right, and what kind of work did they do? Manual labor behind a plow. So they did hard physical labor. They walked everywhere. They ate a vegetarian diet with a little bit of fish, and there was poverty and starvation. If you knew anybody on the Isle of Crete back then, you know what they would beg you for? Food. Chocolate. They followed 22,000 adults, and olive oil produced no difference in death rate, plus or minus. The reason the diet was healthy is because they had twice the vegetable, twice the fruit, twice the whole grains, twice the legumes, a little bit of fish, and meat and dairy was a condiment. Here's what was said in one of the editorials about the study. If the main message that Americans get is to eat more olive and canola oil, that's unfortunate, because you'll only increase your calories and you already eat too much. What the main message is eat more fruits, vegetables, and beans and less saturated fat. So they've actually gone back to the Isle of Crete today. This was published in 2004 to see what's going on there right now. And they found 254 patients. Half had heart disease, half didn't. Typical adult age. The group that had heart disease had the highest intakes of monounsaturated fat, which there equals olive oil. The ones who didn't have heart disease had the highest intakes of carbohydrates, fiber, and folate. And where do you find that? Plants. And it turned out the more mono they ate, the more olive oil, the more heart disease they had. So here's what happens when you feed people a high-fat meal. This is blood flow. That's normal. After the high-fat meal, blood flow decreased for 6 hours. It peaked 4 hours later. Blood flow slowed down. It sludged. This is called lipemia, fat in the blood. And here's what, this is that Robert Vogel. Remember I mentioned him earlier? Who studies blood flow? Here's what he said. This study has shown that a meal containing olive oil as a fat source reduces blood flow by 31%. The beneficial component of the Mediterranean and the Lyon Diet Heart Study appears to be the antioxidant-rich foods, including vegetables, fruits, and their derivatives. Dietary fruits, vegetables, and their products provide some protection against the impairment produced by olive oil.
Once again, we confront the dual nature of deception, whether through outright falsehoods or strategic omissions of pertinent facts. The processes of peer review and democratic discourse can intentionally perpetuate beliefs that diverge from reality, leading to a blurred distinction between truth and disinformation. In such a landscape, vigilance and critical evaluation become indispensable tools for navigating the vast ocean of health information. They serve to promote accurately informed decision-making and safeguarding individual well-being. When money talks, humanity suffers. When money talks, humanity suffers.